North Carolina to make it on the ballot as an independent. Panthers on the clock. The vote Charlotte City Council will take tomorrow that will determine where the team practices in 2026. And Charlotte Squawks is back. We're talking to the show's creator about the popular production's 19th year. You're watching The Political Beat. Thank you for joining us this Sunday for The Political Beat. I'm Joe Bruno. If you are not affiliated with a party, it is extremely challenging to get on the ballot, especially for a high-profile race like the 9th Congressional District. You have to collect thousands of signatures just to qualify for the ballot, whereas Republicans and Democrats can just go pay a fee and qualify for the primary. It's a daunting task, but Shalane Etchison is familiar with tough challenges. She is a former Army officer and was part of a special operations pilot program where she was deployed to Afghanistan on a combat mission. It was there, she says, she gathered critical intelligence on the Taliban and Al-Qaeda targets. She then joined a special mission unit where she partnered with Kurdish women forces in Syria fighting ISIS. She has 2 master's degrees from Harvard. She is a Moore County resident and is running for Congress in the 9th Congressional District as an unaffiliated party member. Now, the 9th Congressional District stretches from Guilford and Alamance counties down to Hoke and Cumberland counties. It includes Fort Liberty. She is facing incumbent Republican Richard Hudson and Democrat Nigel Bristow, and she is joining us this morning on The Political Beat. Shalane, thank you so much for joining us. What made you want to run for this seat?
Hi, Joe. Thank you so much for having me today. I certainly appreciate it. Well, I don't know about you, but most people in our country feel like our politics are broken, that things are just not working and the gridlock in Congress is untenable. And it's time that we do something different. And that time is right now. People are ready to start seeing a different type of candidate on their ballot, in particular an independent candidate. And that's one of the reasons why I decided to get in the race and do it this way in particular.
Now, this state does not make it easy on unaffiliated candidates to run for office, especially running for Congress. You had to collect more than 7,400 signatures. How did you do this?
Indeed, that was a challenge. And really, there was no guarantee that we were going to get it done. It was a leap of faith, but between a combination of some paid staff and then wonderful volunteers and people in my community, most of whom I served with in the Army, stepped up and say, Shalane, we believe in what you're doing. We are going to help you get these signatures. And we did it in like a short 7 weeks. We did it in mostly January and February. Those are pretty sleepy and cold months. But it was with determination and grit, and every single day we vowed to offer that petition to the voters of the 9th District. And oftentimes, people were very eager to sign it. And that was them sending a message that they do, in fact, want to see a different type of candidate on their ballot in November.
That's just so fascinating. Like, how do you even approach, like, what was your method? What did you have a secret? How do you just approach somebody on the street? I mean, we kind of do it with TV news interviews sometimes, but, you know, you kind of have to have a pitch. Like, you know, you have to explain what you're doing here. How did you convince them to put their name on this petition?
Well, it's really easy. Are you happy with our current state of politics? Basically, 10 times out of 10, the answer is no. And like I said, the people are ready. The electorate are ready. They were eager to sign. And we got to lots of places where, you know, there would be higher foot traffic, honestly, gas stations, parks, post offices, different events that we could go to where we could meet people out on the streets and where they are. But again, it was challenging because the sheer volume of signatures we had to get, but the pitch itself was not difficult. People are exhausted, Joe. They are. And when you have a younger candidate like me, someone who brings a lot of depth and perspective, especially to this district that's so veteran heavy, people were really eager to sign and happy to have another option.
Now, you have such an interesting and impressive background. I want to know more about your time fighting abroad. What inspired you to enlist?
Well, let me be clear. I do not come from a military family whatsoever. So growing up, the military was not on my radar. But 9/11 happened when I was in high school, obviously a very consequential event in kind of my coming of age years. And someone has to step up and serve. Why not me? And so I joined ROTC in college and joined the Army shortly thereafter graduation. And it was really the best decision I could have made. I think service to something bigger than yourself is something that's very important. It builds character. The quick leadership experiences that you get in the military, and especially deploying to war zones, as a young 23-year-old, and then subsequently multiple places thereafter, really gives a lot of perspective to the ideals of this country, the freedoms that we enjoy, and the democracy that we want to see last well into the future.
Now, Fox News did a great story on you and pointed out there was a major cultural obstacle because American men weren't allowed to talk to Afghan women, which meant the U.S. military was missing out on intel potentially. So what was this like? How did you even start those conversations?
Indeed. So when I joined, there was still a DoD ban on women in combat roles. Okay, so whether you could meet the standard or not, just by virtue of being a woman, you were not allowed to do certain jobs in the military. So in 2011, when the Special Operations Command put down a directive that said, hey, we need to recruit just a small handful of women across the military, recruit and assess them for this special job, deploying women to Afghanistan to go on night raids with Army Rangers and Navy SEALs, going after high-value Al-Qaeda and Taliban targets to gather intelligence from the other women. That was something that I said, this is right up my alley. I want to do this. I want to rise to the challenge. Not only does the mission itself sound like a great challenge, but I didn't agree that women were barred from combat, and this was going to be a great opportunity for women to showcase some of our mettle in one of the toughest places in the world. And to do that job, it takes a lot of that interpersonal communications that you hone. How are you meeting people where they're at? Oftentimes, you are talking to women in this very high stakes situation. A raid had just happened. It's very chaotic. How are you able to calm people down, build some quick rapport, and explain that, hey, we know that there are high-value Taliban going around here causing issues in your village. Help us understand where these folks are, and that we could get some more stability in the area. Granted, I say that with a grain of salt. There's a lot of things and tactics and strategies about the Afghan war that we could get into later that didn't necessarily work. But it's being able to understand how to meet people where they are and do some quick rapport building.
Let's talk about your priorities. What do you see as the top issue facing the district?
Well, right now, affordability is such an issue for people. I heard that across the board. And it's kind of this conundrum where you hear, hey, our economy is doing well, but those metrics look at, job rates and GDP. But what they're not looking at is how much more people are paying in prices. I hear a lot about the housing issue. Sadly, so many young folks are just concerned that they're never going to be able to afford a home. And they're delaying starting families that they maybe desperately want. And then that's another thing, the cost of childcare as well. So getting a tackle on people being able to just afford a decent living here, I heard a lot around the district. And then also this district is very unique. It is a very veteran heavy. In fact, it's like 12% of the district is made up of veterans. That's double the normal amount for congressional districts. And again, given my background in the military, serving at Fort Liberty for so many years, using the VA healthcare system myself, I really want to be able to bring premier representation to all of the veterans here in the 9th District.
To wrap things up, this district favors Republicans based on past election history. So what is your message to those voters, really all voters, as to why they should back you as an unaffiliated candidate?
Oh, I love that I'm in a position to talk to all voters, Republicans, Democrats, unaffiliated, Libertarian, Green Party. Honestly, I don't view people in the lens of what your voter affiliation is. I'm going to view you as a person first in the district that deserves to be seen, heard, and represented. And honestly, most of the issues that people bring up are collective issues. They're not necessarily Democrat issues or Republican issues. They are people issues. And that's the problem right now with our politics, Joe, is that we have these manufactured divisions right now with our two-party system. I want to get away from that. I simply want to be a representative who is going to hear everybody out and make decisions that are based off what's going to be the best thing for the constituents here. And again, a bottom-up approach. You want to hear from the community when you're making those decisions. And then also looking at data and facts. What's the best policy application for this particular problem? Maybe that leans a little bit more Republican in certain instances. Maybe it leans a little bit more on the Democrat side. You want to have that intellectual flexibility. So I love being able to talk to everyone here, doesn't matter what party they're affiliated with. And most people find that very refreshing.
Well, Shalane, thank you so much for coming on the Political Beat. Best of luck in your race.
Thank you so much for having me, Joe. I appreciate it.
The all-new GoDaddy Aero helps you get your business online in minutes with the power of AI. With the perfect name, a great logo, and a beautiful website. Just start with a domain,